Sista. Hej och hjärtligt välkomna till den här DrupalCampen i Lofoten. Vi har haft lite utfordringar med tekniken, men det ser ut att fungera fint. Om det är på Slack och Drupal-kanalen så kan ni ju eventuellt kommentera i Meetup-kanalen. Först ut Marlon. Marlon, how much tid do you need from them?
5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Yeah, a couple of minutes. Några minuter så är Marlon klar.
Can we see if anyone's watching? Yeah, you could see. Okay. Okay, right. It be going to monitor the system. It's weird. No, they don't check. Yeah, but it's not. It's use. What's the next one? Should it be in the home, in the cabinet, and then yeah. There's no cable, right? HDMI cable, 11 that can connect it. It's a bit easier. I have one. I haven't just played HDMI, but yeah, okay, that's also fine. Yeah, exactly what I want. Oh, so that's not the watching. Okay. I guess can start. Thank you for the short introduction, Daniel. I am Marlon, or Ramsal, and I'm here to have a short introduction or info introduction presentation on Drupal Console. Drupal Console has born from the need of a new tool for Drupal 8 to cover what was missing from Drush. In a way, they don't overlap. They do overlap, but they don't exclude each other. But I will go into details later. First thing is, what is it, and why do we need it?
Can you stand on this side so it's closer to the microphone?
No. No, I can't.
You can't?
No, because
Yeah, okay.
We could have the camera closer.
You can use the closer.
So, Drupal Console, it's a client interface to access all the bits and pieces, to generate scaffolding, to do a lot with Drupal directly from your command line. It is recently in the alpha release, although it is fully compatible with Drupal 8.1, and it's quite stable. I had no trouble with it. I'm using it since a few months. Apart from the probably a interesting entrance barrier, it's very easy to use. It's very useful, especially now with Drupal 8, because before our Hello World module was just a module with no, it was just an info file and a module file with a print inside a very simple function. However, now with Drupal 8, it requires much more, many more files, much more structure. Each file it's in a different location most likely. So we need something to scaffolding. You can of course have your own project and copy your files when you need, but Drupal console will help you in this task and will make everything much faster to start developing right away your module. Build your own entity in a few seconds. I will show it later demonstration. Do you create your own plugin for display suite or blocks or whatever in just a few seconds, and in a very, very easy way. And also, it's still development, very active development, so much more to be expected in the future. As I said, we have Drush, so why bother using Drupal console? I mean, I'm quite sure you can find a lot of modules to extend Drush in its commands, have more scaffolding. However, Drush was born in Drupal 6 and then got its best in Drupal 7. It is known that Drupal 8 is very, very different from Drupal 7 on the code base, especially. Maybe the UI you can't really see it that much. There's a bit of an echo. Is it this YouTube? Yes. Okay. So it's a bit old, and Drupal console is born from Symfony console, which is, as we know, Symfony is on the base of Drupal 8. So whenever you use Drupal console, you're actually using base components of Drupal itself. So you're interacting directly. Of course, Drush does similar things, but it's a bit more own style, and it does not integrate in the same way. One, as I said, does not exclude the other. Drush and Drupal console, they are not going to compete. They're going to work together. There's been several discussions of attempts of integration. It's still on the way, but Drupal console is very fresh. So for now, it's discussions. It's been seeing, okay, there is some overlap. What should be done? There isn't really an answer right now. I had some chats with the main developer of Drupal console, and there is no solution right now. There is some integrations, or multiple. Until now, there's not really an answer for what's the boundary for each other. Personally, since I started using Drupal console, I have not used that much Drush. The only thing I left, I haven't switched yet, is makefiles. Because with Drupal console, there is no such thing as makefiles, but with Drupal console, you can switch to Composer. I'm going to talk a tiny bit later about that, but I will leave the Composer part to Stephan, which comes right after me. So, as I said, to summarize the answer to this question, Drush is not going to be obsolete. It's just going to have different plays. What plays? It depends on the use cases, but I would use during development for scaffolding mostly Drupal console, maybe in a live site to do tiny maintenance. We can just use Drush. And yeah, but who cares about those old theoretical info, just what is it useful for? Well, what actually am I going to use it for? I mean, I've said it's useful for many things, but I haven't said what. So I'm just going to show you directly what you can do with Drupal console. So first of all, one difference to Drupal from Drush is we are probably used to use the Drush commands from inside the site directory, which would be one of those directories. But Drupal console, being tightly connected to the Drupal core, will run from the root, from the Drupal root. So from
Can you zoom in?
Yes, of course. What about that? Oh, that's it. Yeah. So we'll run from the root, the Drupal root installation. So to see what we can do, I'll first start a level higher. There is a very nice list, Drupal, right? We get a list of all the possible commands that we can run, and of course all the options. And there is a very visible warning at the end, which tells, okay, this is a tiny list of things you can do right now, but if you go into a root directory, we'll get the full list of commands. As you can see here, there is not much. There's site debug, some translation, some settings, and it seems like not very useful. So a useful command from here is just to see what sites I have available. So I'm just saying Drupal Drupal site debug. I get a list of all the sites I have currently set up here. Drupal console works also remotely. I will not demonstrate this today. I don't have a current setup. As you can see, I don't have much right now, but it's just you can see the list of sites and where they are and what you can and where they are located, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go in platform latest. Which is one of the Drupal console installed sites. I must say, this was the first big blocker of me, because coming from Drush, which you don't really need to explain anything about where a site is. I was a bit confused, like, do I really need to add it? Do I have to add? I mean, I have several platforms already there, with each one of those has probably 3, 4, 5 sites in it. So do I have to add each one of those? Of course, a lot of them is just 7, but do I have to add all of those manually? The answer was yes. So I'll come back to this later, because I have a point on that. So you have to have in your home directory, you will have a console the first time you install, and you have a site, which is YAML files in which you will need to specify your site. But that's just like, that's a different thing. We're not going to talk about how to install it today. We were saying what you can do with this. So we can return in the list command. I will just pipe it to more so we can go through slowly. Okay, this is, we already seen it. this list of aliases gets a bit longer, as you can see. We can do config, we can do action on config, import, override, and a lot more. You can create new sites, you can create new content, you can run cron, you can debug the cron jobs available, you can do whatever you want to do on the database. You can generate, which is something I'm going to show now, you can generate a lot of things for scaffolding, which is the most useful thing. You can work with it locally, you can do enable module, disable module, download module, and so on. As you can see, the list is very long. You can do stuff with views. And there is a lot you can do. As I said, a very useful function is on generate. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to create an entity. It's going to be very fast. So first thing you want to do is to generate a module name. Let's call it. I'm just going to call it the example. I'm going to ask you for a machine name. I was going to ask you where you wanna save it. I'm going to say default custom. It's a very awesome module. You're going to leave it there. Package name is fine. Which Drupal versions. It asks you if you want to generate a module file, which sounds a bit weird coming from Drupal 7, but I have written now probably around 10 or 15 custom modules in Drupal 8. I've never used a .module file. So it's, yeah, you don't really need it right now. Just leave it there. Ask you if you want to have a feature-ized module. We don't care right now. Of course, there is a Composer JSON integration because Composer is heavily important in Drupal 8. Ask for dependencies, and then generation. I will tell us, okay, have been created these files. And if we go and check into our site, which is here, you'll see there is this there is this structure. I can't zoom in. I hope it's visible. And it has created for us a module file, an info YAML, info YAML file, which contains what we just said, a Composer JSON, which describes our module. This is the first step to create a module, but to create an entity is not much more complex. We can see from the list. And Drupal list, there is a generate entity, and then there's different things, but for now we're just going to look in the content entity. So we just need to exactly this. We just need to type this generate entity. It's going to ask us, okay, I need a module where to install. We have called our module D8 example. So, yeah. It's going to ask for a class name. It's going to ask for the actual entity name and various things. For now, we're just going to leave everything default. And then you see there is a long list of files that's generated. And if we go and see, we have already everything set up. So we have all the files ready, and this is a working entity. So if I go on and I go in my site and log in into the site and enable this module, so I guess I can zoom in too. More visible. If I go on and enable this module that we just created, we will have this new entity fully working and available. It says structure. Well, of course, it's called just default entity because I haven't changed name, but it's fieldable. We have manage display, manage form display. So basically, it's an entity that we can already use. And it took me like 30 seconds to create. Of course, then you can change your entity. This is a very simple entity. I haven't done anything, but you know, it's working. It's fine. It's done once and for all. So what can you use it for? Well, definitely scaffolding and all the rest that you could do with Drush, almost everything. But it doesn't do everything, right? As we know, there is not everything is right developed. As I was saying before, I did want to import or to not manually enter all of the sites I already have installed on my computer because I was already using this machine, of course, for development before knowing about Drupal console. And this led me to a question. It's like, it doesn't do what I need. I mean, I don't want to do manual stuff. That's why I use tools. Otherwise, I can always copy and paste my file. So I need to do. I wanted to do the same for the old sites. So to reuse what's already there. So I started looking into how to develop for Drupal console. Turned out it's extremely easy. Not only because the community that's there, it's very responsive. They have jitter. If you just go on their Git director, GitHub repository, you'll see and find a link to Gitter, and you can just ask them anything. They are very available, and that's one point. But it's also extremely easy to create the command to import the sites, which is now part of Drupal console. I just needed to. This is Drupal console. Oops, too large. I just need to create a very Drupal 8 style, a simple, very short file, import local, and I mean it's 150 lines, but as you can see, it's very short lines, a lot of import. So it took me like just a couple of hours, and I had the site import local command up and running. And if you need, this is a simple command which will add a YAML file configuring your platforms, your Drupal sites that are already in your local machine, with just passing name and directory, and that's it. It's a very simple command, but it's very useful because in that way I could import all the sites that were already there in a simple, very simple script. And took me probably 2-3 hours to understand how it was working, but I already worked with Symfony before, so just knowing what's there, looking at the other commands, and then in another 2 or 3 hours, the command was done already. And I was surprised when I create a pull request on the Drupal command repository. They responded quickly, and within 1 week it was an official release. So if you have something to deploy there to do improvements, they will reply. So they're very active. So if something is missing, you can easily develop it. It will give you also knowledge about Symfony, which is important considering it's the base of Drupal 8, and the community is very ready. There are some gotchas, like we are personally, me and all Ramsels, we are working a lot with multi-sites, and I was hoping to work the same with Drupal console, but at the moment, in theory it's supported, practically it's a bit broken. They are looking into it, and I haven't had the time to look into myself, but that's one of the things you need to take care of, be careful with. It doesn't really support multi-site, but you can trick it just symlinking your site to the site default, which is what I do. I have a very simple script which will just switch between sites and it's one line, so I guess everybody will manage to do it. And even if it was working multi-site, it's not that great, because every time you need to want to run a command, you need to specify a target, --target equal your site name. So it can be a bit boring. So if you use the multi-sites, maybe you'll find a bit boring at the beginning, but you get used to it and building around it, it's fine. It gives much more back than the hassle of changing sites every now and then. Other gotchas is that Drupal console 0 point something was only supporting, of course, Drupal 8.0 version, and now since it's in alpha, it only supports Drupal 8.1. This is because of the packages they have changed, of course, in Drupal. So some classes are not, some libraries are not compatible, fully compatible with each other. Also, this thing is being taken care of. They're checking if it's possible to fix this on the Drupal console side. Otherwise, they will work on separate branches based on the Drupal installation you need. This, of course, can be worked around again with using Composer. But again, I will not speak about it because my colleague Stephan soon will talk about Composer soon. Yeah, and I'm done. So if anybody here will have questions, you can address them now, not shortly.
How is it with the creating a console command for your module? So if you add code inside a module, will it be discovered and can you use it globally on the project?
I have not looked into it, but considering that it's PSR4, like old Drupal, I'm pretty sure it's possible. It's just a class which gets auto-discovered. So I can't say for sure, but I am very positive on the fact it will be found.
More general question, Øystein. By your experience, developing for Drupal console is easier or more difficult than for Drush?
Oh, I find it personally easier for one simple reason. I was developing already for Drupal 8, and then I started looking for console, and you don't see the difference. It's the same. There is nothing hidden. If there is a class name, you know what to look for. As for old Drupal, Drupal 8. So I found it more easy than for Drush. Drush is, apart from the documentation, which Drupal console is basically self-explanatory because you can go in each class and there is documentation there of each class. For Drush, yeah, you might find it, but it's the structure. I feel it's much more organized. It's much easier to find what you need to look at. I think it's easier. Some old Drush developer might not agree with it, but yeah.
Catch the import site function. What did it do?
Yeah, as I said, we are used to Drush, which doesn't need to have any definition of anything. Like you just need to go in the directory and it's going to work. However, Drupal console needs to know that you have a site or you have a Drupal installation, more likely. So you need to have, I actually have it there, I just went very fast. You need to have in your home directory, yeah, it's here. You have, the first time you install it, a .console directory gets generated in your root and your home, and then there is sites which contains YAML files which define your sites. If you have many sites, especially locally, that's probably the case, you need to create them manually there. So you will need to create these YAML files which says, okay, that's the name of the site, the root is there, the host is that one. With site import local, you can just run Drupal console and say Drupal console site import local and pass the name and root, and it will create this YAML file for you.
If you use console to set up the site, like install it.
If you create a new, it will create it for you.
Yeah, if you use console,
Yes.
you put it.
Yes.
Oh.
It's only
So
if
you
you.
download it on your own and everything.
Yeah, if, for example, I create the platforms or the Drupal with the Drush make file, so it will not get automatically there. If you use site new with Composer, with Drupal console and Composer will create the file itself. That's probably why no one actually wondered like you needed this. Yeah, I hope I did answer. Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
Did you say that you could use Composer to replace the makefile?
Yes. It's something I've looked into, and it's a fair option. There is also support for patches, which is not native in the console in a Composer, but there's some extensions. It is possible. I haven't looked in deeply because I was talking about this a few days ago, also in relation with Egir on the Jitter channel of Drupal console, and Jesus Modibar, which is the main developer for Drupal console, actually said he was going to discuss about this because he was also interested with I don't remember the name, but main maintainer of Egir currently, about Composer, Drupal console, and Egir, how this could go in the future, because at the moment there is, of course, no support for Egir for Drupal console. They're unrelated projects. So it is possible. In relation with Egir, we'll see after this DrupalCon what comes out.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't get it, but how is Drupal console installed? Is it installed on root level on your computer, or is it by platform?
You have two options. First one is to just have your global file, like you would have with Drush. It's a FAR, so you can just install it there. The second option, if you create your sites with Composer, you have the package, so you can run it from within your Drupal site. So yeah, I have it locally at the moment because I haven't switched to Composer yet. So that was a bit of a problem, in fact, when I switched from 8.0 to 8.1, because I had to have, as you can see, I've just seen notes before, there was an old Drupal console old, because I used it while migrating from 8.0 to 8.1. Yes. Yeah. Well, if you want to contact me, Twitter, Drupal.org, and all over the web. Basically, it's Isoitos, and you can consult at Marlon.com. And leave the space to Stephan, which will talk about Drupal. We will talk about the Composer and in the Drupal board. Okay, so we can switch HDMI is. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
Well,
Okay.
Jo, Lygre. Checka honom på Slack. When you guys ask questions, make sure to ask them really loud. So it gets.
ready to start.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm Stephan, working as a developer at Ramsat, and I'm going to talk about a composer in Drupal 8 and how composer is doing with his more and more influencing role in the Drupal community. I will not talk that much about how Drupal and composer work together in showing you how all the comments are working, because that's also a little bit boring for some of you, and of course it's well documented, so you can use it. I want to speak a little bit more about the influence itself and what it means for us as Drupal developers or any participants in the whole Drupal system, the whole Drupal ecosystem. What the increasing role of composer means in the Drupal community, it means that you need to see everything what you're doing with code. You should see it as a library, That means it is somehow a new paradigm for us Drupal developers. We are always used to use hook functions, always interacting with the Drupal API, but working with composer and with a library development approach means that we need to rethink how we are developing for Drupal 8. So with the move of Drupal 8 to get nested 100% OOP, and with the adoption of Symfony, Drupal opens really wide to the big PHP community. It opens itself, it opens its own ecosystem, but it's also able to interact with other ecosystems in the PHP world. And that means for us that we as module developers will not forever interacting just with Drupal APIs, not using the amazing plugin functionality in Drupal 8, not using only hooks. It's about using the library approach for a better development. The library approach itself means that we narrow down smaller parts of our modules into encapsulated small units, components that can be separated in small repositories and can be hosted on Git hosting platforms such as GitHub or Bitbucket. It also means that the Drupal module itself in Drupal 8 will only or mostly bind other libraries instead of providing the whole functionality at all. And that's what I wanted to illustrate with this image, where it's Drupal 7, mostly use only a Drupal module, and the term Drupal module stands for that. In Drupal 7, we are only acting with the existing API, more or less. In Drupal 8, on the other side, we have different libraries that can be around a simple module. It doesn't mean, as Marlon said, that we need to have a Drupal module because there are better ways, like interacting with plugins. But it should visualize that small units can be put together to create a custom and improved functionality. And that will be especially used for third-party libraries, like we are using, for example, the Magent module on a lot of sites. For them, it's a really good approach to inject their libraries into a working Drupal installation. Because when you think about Drupal 7 approaches, they always had problems to get PHP code into Drupal installations. There were approaches using the library module, which was more meant for embedding JavaScript libraries. And in addition, with Xautoload or other components, it was possible to use PHP libraries in Drupal 7, but it was always a pain. Or on the other hand, Drupal module maintainers integrated a library directly into a module, which was also a really bad approach, because a library shouldn't ship with the module, it should interact with it. But it should only be dependent and not directly ship with it. Because as we know in the Drupal ecosystem, a lot of module releases are like postponed again, and that like stops the agile process in developing good modules or getting the good parts of the improved libraries into the Drupal modules. One of the biggest investors using this library approach are the commerce guys. They're developing Drupal commerce, and they started to invent this library usage on a really, really heavy base for Drupal commerce for Drupal 8. Narrowing down like every small piece of what they are doing into independent small units. Library for Drupal commerce, meaning, for example, the address module is split up in 3 different libraries that will be used for zone, region handling, and so on. And to see the benefit of it, another shop system which is not related to the Drupal world adopted this zone library from the commerce guys, because it can interact with other systems, because it's a library, and that will like get a bigger crowd to develop sustainable solutions. Now I want to talk about or summarize like the advantages that we can see with this library approach. One of the biggest advantages, I already mentioned it, is that we have the chance to hop off the island, of course with double F. But it's something that is really important, because we are in the Drupal world. We were always like a small part, a really engaged part, but it was really hard to attract other people, and it's also like for a business case, it was always hard to find good Drupal developers. With this move being more open, it means we are able to attract a lot of other people from the PHP community. And hopping off the island is a really, really important thing, because even Martin, who has the chances to live at this beautiful place here in the Lofoten, sometimes need to hop off this island to be open for the world. Attracting this huge developer community means that we will be able to produce more agile development solutions. We will be able to inject more updates into our Drupal modules, and I hope, and I'm pretty sure about it, that at the end will lead to better and sustainable systems. That means for us less migration work. It means that libraries that are more independent can be upgraded, and they only need to change the interfaces to the Drupal part of the whole module. That's a really big benefit. But of course, we always have two sides of the medal, and one of the biggest advantages is that the code is spread out. On one hand, I think, okay, we are using GitHub, we are using Bitbucket, we are using the Drupal issue queue, we are using Stack Overflow. So a lot of things are widely spread out. But it's always some kind of a danger for us, because it will be much harder for us to find our resources. At the moment, or with Drupal 7, we had only the Drupal issue queue we really have had to think about. That this library approach means that we also need to take care on all the different libraries and issue queues on, for example, GitHub, which of course will require from us really more openness and probably also more work to dive into all the functionality. And we lose, in a way, our centralized benefits that we had just using Drupal.org. We at Runside are using multi-sites because of our dependency of Agir at the moment quite a lot. And this library approach using Composer means for us that we cannot treat every site within a platform as being quite isolated. Because in Drupal 8, all the libraries are going by default into the vendor directory of the root platform installation. That means we need to take care of other sites that are running on the same platform. Meaning, when we are updating the libraries, when we are installing new libraries, we always need to take care that we don't create conflicts or problems with other sites. Of course, we always should care. But yeah. And we need to see, for that reason, the platform as a whole bundle and take care of everything that goes around this. Composer in real life. So the last 2 months I worked really heavily on my first real life Drupal 8 project, Kunskapswerket. And even in this smaller site, it's not the biggest and complex site I ever worked with, but even in this site, I had to use a lot of libraries to make the site work. For example, the Mation module required the Mation library. The address module required the address library, the internationalization library, and the zone library from Commerce Guys. Another common example that nearly everyone will use Search API Solr dependency on Solaro, which is the default PHP connected to the Solr world. And geocoder for geocoding addresses has also another independent library. And you can imagine how big the whole dependency library will be on really big and complex projects. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Contrib Composer workflow that will be playing the biggest role for us in our daily business. Using the Composer approach in Drupal 8 means that we cannot easily install every module, placing it, downloading it with Drush or whatever to our site, enabling it. We always need to take care that all the dependencies of this module are met. While I developed my first Drupal 8 project, I found myself in the situation that I accidentally enabled a module and didn't care about the dependencies. What was the result of it? The result of it was that the whole installation broke. White screen of death everywhere, just because I enabled the module. The dependencies were not met. I was not able to uninstall the module with Drush, because even that throws exceptions. Yeah, welcome to the Drupal 8 world. So then you have the chance to really explore the new Drupal 8 database to get the site back again. So that's my advice for you when you're using Drupal 8. Always do a dependency check composer before you install a module. Of course, module developers should care by themselves to check for the requirements, but this might be often not the case. And when you're check the dependencies with Composer, then you can enable the module and see if everything works. Composer Manager is a tool that will help you to manage the dependencies. It used to be like the default way in Drupal 8 to manage all your dependencies from a site. It offers a really cool command that is called Composer Drupal Update that took all the work for you. It recursively checks all the modules that are installed on the platform and updates all the libraries and missing dependencies. So that's quite neat. And it also provides a small overview page in the report area of Drupal 8, where you can see all the installed libraries and versions. Comparable, this overview page is a little bit like comparable of this requirement overview page on status page in Drupal 7. But it seems to be that Composer Manager will be in midterm deprecated for a more cleaner Composer approach. Because, as I said, it has a problem that it always updates all the libraries. So that means that it also might update Drupal core libraries, and you shouldn't update all the libraries just to install one simple module. So that's one of the biggest downsides of the whole Composer Manager approach, and one of the maintainers actually announced that you should rethink of using this Composer Manager approach. Composer and Aegir. Composer and Aegir is a quite interesting combination. Also, Marlon had presented some thoughts about it. It has currently no Composer support. No Composer support for us means all migrations at the moment will fail by default, meaning we will not be able to integrate updates, security updates of module or core at the moment by default. So there is a quite neat workaround for the moment that we should use at Randstad, and everyone should use at Aegir till they have an improved solution. That one is when you want to migrate a site to a newer platform, you should copy the site manual to the new platforms folder, then resolving the dependencies with Composer Manager or later on with Composer itself, and then performing the migration, because only so you are like sure that all the dependencies are met. And outside of the box that we are now in the beginning of Drupal 8, the Composer approach could be even extended more, and it seems like that the whole Composer philosophy will extend in that way, that Composer and Composer JSON files, which is a kind of definition of the library requirements, can, for example, replace our beloved Thrush make command. Or you can use Composer to, for example, download the module you want to install, and of course, when you use that approach, it will also resolve all the dependencies. That's the good point, that you don't need to take care after downloading the module that the dependencies are met. And that's the change that is happening now for all Drupal modules, that Drupal maintainers should integrate a composer.json file. Since the last month, all the Drupal version system, which is a little bit different to the composer world, can work together with composer so that all modules can be listed on packages.org, which is like the default metadata sharing system for composer libraries. And that will help us to easily resolve all the dependencies. And as always, I'm asking you if you have some initial questions to this quite complex and technical topic. And of course, it could be also a little bit more technical than all these generic things I talked about.
One of the questions, here, we can also work around at the moment with using the site import functionality. Which we can do manual migration and then import it to the UI. Here. Also, that's an alternative of or we could integrate with commands. But the moment it's quite broken.
Yeah, sounds like a reasonable approach. I see you are more into the whole integration thing. Yeah, nothing.
It seems like when you're adding more libraries, you will lift out more of the core logic for many of the modules. When you have now seen on different popular modules for AAA, can you estimate how much of the logic in the modules are actually provided by the libraries instead of having it as it probably was in Drupal 7, with the logic in the module and probably custom for Drupal, but now it's like more generic PHP code. So how many percentage?
I think it's hard to estimate it really in percentages, but as far as these modules are meant to be like third-party integration, then you can be sure that maybe these libraries are even bigger than the module itself. And for ecosystems like Drupal Commerce, I think it's realistic that the library part will take over 50% easily of the whole module. Yeah, nothing.
And it's like, so now all the libraries, they are probably all hosted on GitHub. You mentioned something about it, so it's more it's decoupled from Drupal.org.
Yeah, distributed completely.
How do you feel like the experience so far working that way?
From my experiences, all these library integrations went quite fine, but of course it's kind of a loss of control, which I'm also a little bit afraid of, because it means I have different resources. I need to research much more on other issue queues, applying patches, pull requests from this issue queue. So of course it's about losing control in a way. So we need to be more open to produce sustainable solutions. Because when we still think of, oh yeah, let us resolve this dependency, that's not enough. It will work for a lot of modules, but I think you will run into troubles.
So, for example, commerce guys libraries for commerce are those hosted on GitHub or Drupal.org?
Libraries can't go to Drupal.
No, so they are somewhere else.
Yes, I think for Drupal commerce, for the commerce guys, they are hosted at GitHub, like most of them.
So do commerce guys handle both issue queues?
Yes. And as always, there's also like an own support forum, something for Drupal commerce on their own page. So it's a little bit more distributed and harder for us to really find all the things.
Add also that I've seen since Drupal 4, since Drupal 8, I've seen several few modules at least switching from Drupal.org issue queue to the GitHub because they work directly in GitHub. And example overall is the media initiative. All the media initiative, you can find the issue queues in Drupal. Some in Drupal.org, but it's mostly happening in GitHub since they have all the repository there, and even for the Drupal module. And then they just are syncing with Drupal.org Git repository.
Yeah. So for Drupal 8, you should definitely check out if there is a GitHub page for this module, because I also saw it the other way around, where at a special moment the GitHub repository was standing still for 2 months, but the Drupal releases were ongoing. So that's one really good proof of this losing of control. So we as developers really need to take care of all this situation. At least we need to know what can happen. And it's our task, like, to check where the interesting things of the whole modular library systems happen.
It seems to have many issues for the multi-site setup. I'm just wondering, what's the reason why there could be like a vendor directory in your sites folder, like libraries and understanding?
It is not completely impossible, and in Drupal 7 there's also a composer manager for Drupal 7 or other composer workflows where you actually place the vendor or can place the vendor functionality, the vendor folder into the site itself. I think it extends a little bit more into the whole concept of Drupal 8 and conflict, that also the core libraries are in this root vendor folder, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons that the auto discovery is at the moment only programmed for the default vendor for the default vendor folder. So I think there are possibilities to work around it, but on the other hand, of course, when we know what we are doing, it's also quite a good situation to have all the libraries on the same version in the platform vendors folder. So it's a risk, but can be also a big point benefit for us on the other hand.
Yeah, more why did Drupal as a community take that decision and not looking far away to HTTP for autoloading? But we were always marketed Drupal by a strong multi-site capabilities and always having global modules and then site modules. So we always had that same separation, it seems, and it seems that it's gone away.
I would disagree that Drupal is really marketing with multi-sites. I always had the feeling that it's more like a stepdaughter project.
That might be true.
Any more questions?
Switch for the next.
Yes.
Ish. Next presentation is again by Stephan.
You have to go back there and come.
Change the shirt.
Yeah. Just have to find it.
So who's next?
Is this guy called Stephan?
Steffi.
Ja, det är bara vissa som har kört. Det finns en trasa här.
Ja, då vi hade kaffe och drick på den.
Satsning.
Fyra måste.
Fyra.
I don't think it's necessarily that big.
No, not necessarily.
It's started to do that love stuff. We read the seat that we didn't know. Okay, I thought they was over have hundreds of
Yeah, no doubt there are benefits. It just seems that it's some step forward in that direction. It's losing. Which might not be a bad thing, but if you look at the
average use, it seems
yeah, it's a sign. There's nothing wrong with it. It's curious that it's going in that direction.
yeah, no, but it's not like no one's pushing the other directions.
Opinion on that.
Yeah.
Say something about it's a shift. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's still there, but on the libraries, I'll wait for them to use it, right?
Yeah.
Så det ska kunna vara så här.
Ja, jag vet inte.
You can
Why don't you do things?
All right, so now welcome to my second presentation for today. It's about the fate of the CKE body for the CKEditor body field using for everything. That presentation will be a little bit more like a short case story of a decision we made like 1.5 years ago, and I will present the benefits of this decision and see what were the gotchas of this to use the CKEditor for managing the body field at all. Yes, so 1.5 years we made this decision that we are going to drop the current VisiBig configuration using the VisiBig module and Drupal 7 and dropping the media button from Visivik and going for the CKEditor module and using an enhanced image approach from CKEditor itself. And
It's a very big decision, so it has multiple slides.
okay. So, what were the reasons that we were doing this step? We often had a request from our clients that they want to have a little bit more flexibility about how they are using image captions. When we are thinking back of the solutions that we had using the media integration, which file entity with like caption fields, and we always were inheriting the caption field, injecting it then with the Drupal file functionality into the specific place in the body text where we integrated the image. We wanted to have more control of it, or give the author more control on it, and that's something that the CKEditor image 2 module offered. So embedding the image into the Visivik into the CKEditor and directly inline editing the captions or even removing these captions. So that was one of our main reasons to do this step. And also there were some requests that it would be quite nice that you can offer a draggable image resizer, and which, yeah, the media button itself was not able to provide because it was more based on view mode, image styles, and so on, so more on the core field functionality that the image fields are providing. And at the end, it should give the author a more reliable preview of the things that he is doing, because just presenting in like scaled image in the CKEditor was not enough. So having the caption shown, make it editable, and being also able to use other kind of widgets in the CKEditor field. In our case, it were fact boxes or quote boxes, which were before also entities that were attached as fields to different places. Okay, so my major task in this step was to create small CKEditor plugins which can work also independently somewhere else. So it's a little bit also of this library approach, but the JS library approach, to offer quote boxes, fact boxes, and images. And as you can see on this tiny image here is how it was looking for the author. So he was really able to see how, for example, this fact box is acting. So we have the exact correct font sizes, we have paddings, and you see like this border on top, on the bottom. So it was kind of a more inline editing feeling, except it was just the normal body field we ever were used to. Another reason for switching to this approach is that at that point of time, we were often struggling with broken media upgrade paths. That was like a big problem in this time, that a lot of Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, it was not completely upgrade compatible. And this solution also provided us a little bit more of a trustworthy solution that we will not lose images, entities, or properties attached to already existing articles. So we were able to provide a solution with optional image captions. They were upgrade compatible, and all in all, author experience was improved. But there were also downsides, and these downsides occurred more and more during the time we were using it, where client made newer and more advanced requests. And one of the major issues that I identified now after using that approach for a while is that losing the Drupal field benefits are a really, really big gotcha we had after this move. Because with this image 2 approach, we were inserting images as original images, so paths to the absolute images. And we had workarounds to present these images in an improved way, to not load like 6 MB original images within an article. So we were using the inline resize, the image resize filter, just to be sure that, for example, an image will not be bigger than 1000 pixels. But that led us to another problem, that more and more pages were requesting advanced functionality like images that were spread over the whole screen. And then we came to the point where even this 1000 pixel limitation was not enough. And one of these biggest problems is that we were losing the whole responsive adaptive image approach, which a normal Drupal image field can offer. Meaning we will stick to 1000 or whatever number we can define. 1000 pixel image in the article, 1000 pixel images for the screen-wide images, meaning using a 4K monitor and having the website really wide would lead to a catastrophic quality. And another thing is that not using the Drupal fields component also applied some missing upgrade paths, meaning we were bound to this raw HTML that the CKEditor image solution created. So we wouldn't be able to like apply another module like we do it always in Drupal. There's a new cool module for handling responsive images. We are simply not able to do it, and there is like no easy way to go back to the file system for existing images, because we only have these full absolute URLs in our data storage. And another thing is that one of our main purposes, like having draggable resize main images in the article, seems to be not that often requested as we hoped it to. More and more designs that we are dealing with have like fixed image dimensions that were behaving responsive, but there is no need that the author is really doing the job of resizing the images. So one of the biggest benefits of the whole solution was more or less obsolete. And one of the things that we now internally need to do is that we should evaluate this step that we made, using that session now as a starting point, that we get more into detail into our current solution and should rethink if that is the way we should also go for our new or existing Drupal 7 installations. Because I said we have this problem that once we decide to go for the CKEditor image 2 approach, it's really, really hard to go back. And as I identified so many drawbacks with this solution, it's definitely necessary that we evaluate it and think if it's maybe not wiser to go back to the normal image field media integration. Or hope that we will do only Drupal 8 programming in the future using their improved solutions. Yes, and one of the possibilities solutions that can work around and improve the whole author field, and but without using all the functionality of the field API, is that what the paragraph modules can do. And we should evaluate if the paragraph module should be one of our major uses for creating advanced articles, because that might be easier exportable and probably also easier to use. Because also one setback of our current solution is that it is not really exportable. We always need to copy and paste a lot of the configuration, and we are quite limited for use cases like I, as the author, want to present parallax images within an article, but the specific image 2 solution only can provide left alignment, center alignment, justified alignment, right alignment. So we are more or less used to these 4 options. It's a limitation. Otherwise, we need to rewrite the whole image 2 plugin at all. And that's a really weak limitation, because all the requests and demand we get nowadays might extend this basic solution. So we are doing a lot of workarounds to make it happen. And that, of course, is at the end hard to maintain and hard to export and reuse on other pages. And this paragraph approach might help us, and we can see what Øystein in the next presentation is telling us about his experience using the paragraph module for building rich articles. Yes. So, and of course, any comments or questions from our side? Yeah,
No, you
if you can go with the cons, that's something that I saw a couple of days ago. I wanted to ask because I didn't get exactly why. I think you explained it. Images only inserted as original images.
Yes.
It was not possible to insert them with a kind of token that will render the file entity on a new mode.
It is, but then we are back at the normal media 2 solution. That's
okay.
That's the point. Okay. So it's the media 2 solution, and we are the only thing that we are losing is the draggable image resizer, which is more or less not used. And of course, these original images leads to performance issues when an author is editing the article, because he will always render the image in full size, which means for a really long advanced article loading at least 16 megabyte for the whole article, which is insane.
But I think we should also have prepared a talk on the entity embed functionality. Well, it's actually also in Drupal 7, but it's even better in Drupal 8. I think that because I will do the presentation on Paragraph, and there are a lot of nice things with Paragraph, but actually most of your cons here can be avoided using the entity embed in CKEditor. The entity embed is embedding all kind of entities inside the CKEditor with tokens, and
we are using it now. We are using it now.
Entity embed? No, we are using node embed, and node embed is kind of a different approach of embedding these entities. And entity embed was part of Google Scholarship some years ago. I think mainly to improve the situations in Drupal 8, but then it got backported. I also tested it, and it seems to be quite useful. But of course, it needs to have evaluation.
Yeah, we need to make some tests of it. Yeah, and with media being all kind of files and images and stuff being media in Drupal 8, now being entities. It's probably that also with media 2 module, but makes it really consistent because everything is entity. So you can embed a node, you can embed image, and you can select view mode, so you can have the different view modes. I'm not sure how it is with left, right, centering. That will be part of the normal CKEditor.
Yes, but it will simply, I think it will simply attaching classes then to this wrappers of the entity, which is also quite a neat solution. Yeah.
When we went for a CKEditor, it was because it was the editor that was going to be used in Drupal 8.
Yeah.
So it's good that we upgraded to it. And I'm wondering if will this be problems that we will face in Drupal 8?
As Øystein said, a lot of these problems will not be happening in Drupal 8 when we are using solutions like Entity Browser, or on the other side, a different approach, paragraphs. Because there is no need anymore to use this image 2 approach, which is with these original images. It shouldn't be used at all because the Drupal core functionality is using something quite related to that what Media 2 was doing. So it has deals with entities, so these images or file entities, and is using data properties to do all the rendering and keep this file entity relationship there. So it will not be a problem in Drupal 8, but even in Drupal 8 there are a lot of different solutions how you can handle media. And a lot of these things are work in progress, so it's not easy to decide on the long run at the moment, or for the long run at the moment. Yeah. All right. All right. Let's see.
Connect the screen. Should I try? No. Should be. Is there any difference between these two? It's not going to HTML. No, not used. Fantastic. You're lucky that you're using the 2016 and you want to no, I can do it. Actually, no. You will go back and these things. Okay, so this presentation will be on paragraph module.
Can you zoom in?
It's been existing for several years, I think. So it exists for
even more. But
it's been existing for Drupal 7. So but I'm not sure why we haven't used it before, because there can be quite a lot of use cases for it that not maybe connected to the long form and advanced content stuff. But I mainly started to try it out on Drupal 8 because the field collection field wasn't quite there yet, ready for production. I think it has become better now, but I still find that module maybe is a better fit than field collection in Drupal 8. It seems to do the language well. You can translate the paragraphs, and the UI is quite okay. So I think I will start to use the paragraph field quite a bit. But after using it, I've had some ideas about what's possible to do with the paragraph module. So I'll do a demonstration, and I hope for some discussions afterwards of what's possible, what we can foresee of possible usage of it, and maybe find some negative aspects of it. I know there are some, and we can have a discussion about it. See if it's a good choice, or maybe we should stick to the old way of doing things with field collection or with the CKEditor, node embed, entity embed, and stuff. So I'm going to make a page. Let's just have standard content. And then come to the paragraph field, and I've called this field page top. And this is a landing page, and it needs to be quite flexible in what content it displays, both in what should be able, but also in the order it should be displayed. So this would probably be normal to do in panels, but since panels is still a little bit behind on Drupal 8, I tried to see if I can do some of it with the paragraph module. So we can do start with a big promo, which consists of a title, and maybe some text. And then it's a media field. Since this is so much zoomed in, it might be hard to see what's actually happening here. Okay, this is the entity browser. So select a media file. The line as a URL field. So now I added one paragraph type. See how that looks. Okay, so
it's really good if you have it zoomed in.
yeah, I can't zoom much more in. So okay, this is the paragraph, the paragraph consisting of a title, image, smaller or a longer text, and a link with link text. And it's displayed and styled together. So not with just one, but let's add. So just make sure that it gets the side menu. Okay, thank you. So we'll add a small promo box, which is much the same as a big promo box, and maybe I could have implemented it with a selection field or something on the promo box, selecting what size the promo box should be. But I went for making two different paragraph types. So and the same here, it has image, oops, not the tree. Yeah, first the one also has a link, but a link without a link text. We'll add that and see how it goes. Okay. So they're one after the other. So the styling is a little bit off, but let's do another one. Some plain text promo box. Can have a longer text field. I'm not sure, not very long. So these are the three paragraph boxes now, or paragraphs, and then we have the body field. But let's try to rearrange them and see what happens. So let's put the small image promo on top. And, so we can nicely arrange them. Then comes the crazy stuff. So I will move the order back. But let's add a block to the paragraph list. So I have a block. Let's go to the block list. So I have a block that's the normal last content or last nodes block, and it's rendering in a region that's not displayed because you can't display a node that's not in a region. So that's a little bit of a drawback, There's many discussions about how to solve this. And people are working on solutions for this, either to create the block inside the field, or to make it able to have the, because we still have the deactivated blocks. So, but still, even the deactivated blocks will not render if you reference them, because there's some logic saying it shouldn't render, of course, the deactivated or non-existing blocks. So you have to place the block and like go around it to making a region that's not rendered. There might be some performance penalty to this, that it might render on all pages, not just without being displayed. I haven't looked into it yet, but I need to check how it's done. So let's find that block. It's use the going to complete field, and it's just an entity reference field for selecting blocks. So we add that one, and now we have a flow of paragraphs or content, promos and a block, and it could be a view, or this is probably a view. Yeah, it was. So you can have, so if you had a view that was a map, you could have that arranged in whatever order inside of this paragraph list. So you can not just the normal content that we are familiar with, like slideshows, images, text fields, titles and stuff, but you could have really advanced stuff in the flow, and you can place all blocks and rearrange them. And so this interface might not be the best for, or having the possibility to place all blocks is maybe not the best solutions for all the users of a page. Blocks and views are often too advanced for a normal user, so that possibility should maybe be hidden. So I'll show what happens if a user without the permission to use the advanced content paragraph type that I made tries to edit this page, and it works quite nice actually. Let's see here. This one. And here's the different paragraphs. And at the bottom, it should have the advanced content. And it just says, I can't edit it. So, but it's still there, and I can still change the order of the different paragraphs. So let's switch the order. And let's go back to the page and view it. Now, it's switched places. In this instance, it would probably be quite hard to get the styling right when you can have a full width paragraph type and smaller ones, so you could to lock it down even further, not to allow the full width content together with like the half width or the 30% width content or paragraph types. You could actually have, so here I could have made a paragraph type that says 3 small boxes that contained yet these other paragraphs. So a paragraph containing paragraphs. It's possible, and it seems to work at the small tests I've done with it, but it will probably be a bad user interface. So you would first have to create the paragraph type of you want, and inside that paragraph type you would have to create these 3 others, and I think that can be a bit complex for a normal user, but it's possible at least. Yeah, so that's the demonstration. I will find my notes for what I think are the cons of this approach. Yeah, so when you add, let's say you created a long read or a normal article with just paragraphs. So 1 paragraph was text, and that would replace the normal body field. And 1 paragraph was image and 1 was slideshow. So you could compose a nice long read with advanced content. It could be hard to extract the different fields and different content in other contexts. Like when you view the full page, you have it all there. But if you want to make a view using the photo, the image of the article to make a nice list of all the long reads, it would be really hard if it was not just 1 field on the note. And also the styling will be quite hard. Maybe in the long read, the feature article, it can be done, because mostly then it will be full width, or you will have text flowing around it. But in my example, where you can randomly place elements, and some of them should be on the same row, and others should take up the full width, it can be hard to get the styling just right, with all things being random. You have to code for all possibilities, having 1 element on each line, having 2 elements, 3 elements, having 1 element, and then a big element, and yeah. So, I will look into that to see if it's manageable. And also export of the node to other services. Like maybe not RSS, the normal feeds, but the Facebook, the Facebook instant article. It's possible, but you would probably not be able to use the standard view that comes with the Facebook instant article module. And yeah, all the ways you would want to export this content, it would make it harder, because you don't have a predefined schema or system of what fields exist and what will come. So that will also make it harder in the future if you're going to migrate this to some other system or a solution where you don't have these paragraphs. If you want to go back to the full CKEditor approach, having images and fact boxes and stuff inside CKEditor, that could be a challenge to migrate to from this. Or if you're going to migrate it to other systems, then you can see that it will be a challenge. And also search API, there is coming support for it, and they're working on it. Some people say they have it working. I have not made it work yet, but it seems to be on its way. So I'm still not settled on if it's I think it's the best approach for the feature article. I think we should also look more into the entity embed possibilities, because that will give even more flexibility. And also, so if you have the feature article and you write the body field and it's a paragraph, and then you have image and more text and slideshow and more text in different fields, will be a lot of cutting and pasting. If you decide the order was wrong, you want more text above the image field, you have to cut it out and paste it. And if we go for the CKEditor alternative, you can just drag the image below the text you want. So I'm not sure which one is the best user interface either.
I think we need to ask the users here. Some might find this perfect for their needs, and some would probably find this too advanced.
Can I give an input here?
Yeah.
I would be quite interested in what Daniel's opinion about paragraph is, because he was using paragraph from his Kunstwerk, and maybe I don't know about it, but can you share some experiences and the feeling of adding images and drag and dropping quote boxes, images and paragraphs?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it took a little bit longer to learn Espen how to do it and also get comfortable doing it myself. But the one bad thing for me is that I have a really small screen. So then when I'm taking things up and down, it's kind of complicated. And when I didn't write the text, then actually I don't know if I put it in the wrong order. So that created some problems with Kunskapsverket. But in general, it's really good when you get to know it, and yeah.
What does Espen say then?
Espen, he was a little bit frustrated in the beginning, but I think now it's working fine. And I mean, with all the formats and the wide quotes that we can put in, the big pictures, we can make one thing really, really beautiful. So, and especially with them, because they don't have that much content, they can spend some extra time on each thing. Yeah.
And also, in my approach to this landing page, they can have in the right column here, besides the body text, there will be another paragraph field that can have the fact boxes. But there should be a way to move a fact box. So if I had a fact box here, but I found out, no, I want this fact box either moved to the top, which is a different field. Should be a way to do that, maybe.
Take away both.
What?
Take away both. What field becomes part?
Yeah, but how would you define which field goes on the right?
Comes up.
Every time a field. So, but if you have two fact boxes, will it come under or on the side.
But it's complicated. So
Yeah, of course.
So for example, on Kunstskampswerke, we have a situation that when we want to place a fact box, for example, after one paragraph, we have this like text paragraph, and we want to place the fact box here. Then we would add a new paragraph type with the fact box at that position, and then we can, of course, do styling, position it absolutely to that place, which is working quite neat. But you might have situations where you have, for example, a byline on the very top of the article, and when the users are then starting to add a fact box as the first element, then you will create an overlap. So you need to resolve this overlap. So, of course, you also can run into edgy situations.
Making it too
too flexible and then not that obvious, because in a way, even the CKEditor approach and paragraph is flattening our elements. They don't care about what's happening in the sidebar area or over the whole screen. It's in a way always flattened, and that will always be an issue for the content editor, because you cannot really foresee what happens with all these flying elements on the left and on the right. And till now, I haven't found any good solution to make it really obvious for the content editor what is happening at the end. Except in good. But
then Kunskapsverk is making fact boxes that are longer than the actual text.
It's also an issue, because I need to put it absolutely.
Is it possible to add like some default boxes, populate some default stuff, which you could either remove and reorder, but for some users they can't remove it.
Having a template.
Well, it's fields, so it's.
If you, for example, would have the byline as a default box there.
Yeah, here you can make a standard. Might be possible, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that would work, but and if you don't have permission to touch, but you can reorder them.
How do you control the permission per
It's not like nodes, yeah. So no types. So you have the full.
Oh, in the permission.
Yeah. For each of them.
Okay. But there are entities, the paragraph elements.
Yeah, but it handles it all by itself. So it has a list of the different paragraph types.
They're reusable.
Yeah, you select on the field which one you want to allow.
That's very interesting.
Have you tried any other similar solutions that you would say are make it difficult to choose between paragraphs, or that other solution?
Yeah, the entity embedded CKEditor, I would say.
You tested it yourself?
In small scales, simple test. And yeah.
What about the combination of entity reference with inline entity form on a multi-value field? And
it's more or less it's like in the better way.
But how is it better?
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's
it's a problem which may not be always a problem, but I see it as a restriction in paragraphs is that, as far as I got it, like field collections, when you create a paragraph entity, you must set a host entity, or else you can't save it. With the other solution, you can just save the entity autonomously as it is and embed it to the field or on the body field as an entity embed.
But you can have a paragraph which references an entity. I mean, the paragraph itself is just a
something which holds content. There is no, I mean, unless you're talking like only programmatically. True, but it's complex change.
Yeah, I considered that option, and I think I didn't try it and just went for paragraph, was because you would have to make the entities. So I saved time and just use paragraph. And I think paragraph brings a couple of things to the table that you would have to make your own. And one of the issues with inline entity form is that it's not open by default. There will probably be development there also, and common entity fields that are open when you open the node. But as you see here, if all the fields are visible when you open it, but if it's entity reference with inline or with inline editing, it will be closed, and you have to say edit or something before it opens.
That's true. I can say for a content editor, it doesn't care about programmatically creating entities and references that you solve according to the UI.
Yeah.
I want to mention another benefit I see in the paragraph solution, which might play a really big role in our evaluation process on which way we should go for the new Runset media version, is that we have one benefit with paragraph is that we can choose which paragraph types are available for a special node. Meaning, when we are, for example, choosing an entity embed solution, it means that this entity embed options, whatever will be possible to embed, masonry gallery, factbox, whatever, will be by default available in all the same text format fields. Meaning, when we have a lot of different content types and we want to offer special elements only for that content type, it would mean with entity embed we need to create a huge list of different text formats, which is also quite a big problem. And that's what paragraph is solving quite well, because in every field in every content type where I use paragraph, I can define, reorder which paragraph types I'm going to use. So I can easily exclude a masonry gallery for a forschung project or whatever.
That's where that's.
And we can add them afterwards and sell them.
We should make a module for having the granularity to select also, not just what text format, but what node is being edited. It should be possible to make a permission thing, or not a permission, but because when you load the CKEditor, you can just check what kind of node it is and then remove the or somehow just it.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's
it's
some custom
possible.
code.
It's depending on maintainability. I think there's a technical solution. Just out of the box, that might be a big limitation.
Yeah.
Is that last two questions? Because we're running out of this time.
Running out of time, okay, and I will be short. We definitely have to evaluate this with the end user, because if this might be a really good technical solution for us, but if it would be too advanced for an user to publish a story fast, we haven't gotten any further, so we have to see that too. Yeah, okay, we are running short, so
Just want to show this image. Some of you probably looked at this solution. It's a totally different system, Django, Python, CMS, but they have the same concept as the paragraph. They call it stream field, and the user interface is a lot nicer. So here you can add a header, paragraph, image, or Twitter widget. You can rearrange them. And, so there are other people, of course, using the same strategy for having different kind of content in a stream. In the same page.
Okay. Yeah, as we are getting a part of this funder collaboration, it would be also interesting for them because it seems that they are using Paragraph heavily to see what they are thinking and their focus are thinking.
And the UI, it's just a UI that can use them.
Okej, det konkluderar våran fotosamling här på Kalle. Tusen tack till er som såg på och välkomna att kontakta oss